Hey, what's going on, y'all? Eric Muldrow here with Code Red Conversations. Thanks for joining me today. You know, I was really planning on just chilling out this evening. Got together with one of my old buddies and we shot a few videos today. Had a pretty hectic weekend. Hey, Kristin. Let me put your post up here. Trevor Noah is just script reading victim of Kalergi plan, selling his soul to Lucifer for money. Yeah, I'm not familiar with the Kalergi plan is, but I'm rocking with you overall. But same as the other MSM talking heads, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. So I'm sitting back and I'm just chilling out at home, watching a little TV and scanning through some YouTube videos. And then I see a Trevor Noah video come across my newsfeed. And I know in my heart I shouldn't click on it. I know I shouldn't click on it. But what do? I click on it. And once again, after spending a few hours with one of my buddies, going over a former police sergeant, going over a few incidents, putting some content together, I should have left it alone, but I guess I'm a glutton for punishment, basically. So anyway, I come across this beauty of a video. First of all, just to vent, I don't find this man funny in the slightest. There's nothing he says or does that amuses me. I think dude is corny, is all get out. He's sitting around trying to look all ultra woke with his lack of a haircut because he's social distancing. Anyway, I'm not here to mock the dude overall. Why is a South African even commenting on American politics? Good question, bro. Good question. Your punishment equals good content for Thanks, Kristin. I appreciate it. What up, Frank? His comedy is all low-hanging fruit. It really is. And it's just bad. He's just not funny in the slightest. And I know part of that is because I'm conservative. I am not liberal. So I don't get his talking points. I don't get his humor. But the reality is dude's just not entertaining to me whatsoever. Anyway, so I come across this beauty of a video, and I make it about halfway through, and my blood's boiling. And I had to pray, I asked the Lord to forgive me. Some of the thoughts that were going through my head. This dude really gets on my last nerve. Honestly, he really gets on my last nerve. And the saddest part about it is I know he has an audience. There are people out there listening to him, and they appreciate him, and they think that he is so wise. But with all due respect, and as a man of God, this dude is just a fool, and he's not smart, and he's a race baiter. And that's what he does. He sits back and he tries to figure out ways he can incite the crowd and get black folks and minorities and woke folk riled up. That's what he does. So let's jump into this video. I really want y'all to see and listen to this nonsense and share my pain. So I appreciate y'all helping me out. Much love. So let's go.
In the trial of Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin for the murder of George Floyd. And it says just about all you need to know, that even as the trial is going on, protests are raging once again in Minneapolis over the killing of another unarmed black man, Daunte Wright.
Always the unarmed black man. If you don't lead with that, can these folks in the mainstream media, and I put him in the mainstream media largely because he gets such traction everywhere, but can they make a case without going there? I don't think they can. They have to get people wound up. Don't talk about the details of Daunte Wright. Don't talk about the fact that he resisted. Just make him out to be a completely innocent victim in this whole encounter. And if y'all hadn't seen my video on YouTube where I addressed that whole incident, tragic, unfortunate, beyond unfortunate, horrific, sad. But once again, when we go down this path, when we discuss these issues, if you are not taking the time to address the reality of the resisting suspect, the resisting black man in this case, then you aren't trying to have a dialogue. You're trying to promote an agenda, clearly. But let's proceed. Hold on, real quick. I enjoyed Trevor Noah's comedy before he got political. Now he's unbearable. I didn't even know he wasn't political. I didn't even know there was a time where he wasn't political, but shows what I know.
Overnight, protests erupted in Brooklyn Center, a suburb of Minneapolis, after a fatal police shooting of a black man during a traffic stop. The Minnesota National Guard deployed, police deploying tear gas to clear the crowds.
Police say officers tried to arrest the driver on an outstanding warrant when the man tried to get back into his vehicle. That's when police say an officer shot him.
According to the police chief, the officer was attempting to draw her taser, but accidentally pulled her gun and fired it.
You have got to be f***ing kidding me. A man was killed at a traffic stop because the police officer mixed up their gun and their taser? Is that even supposed to be a legitimate excuse?
No, actually, he was killed primarily. The catalyst for this entire event was him making the decision to resist, him making the decision to flee. That's the catalyst for this entire encounter. Once again, I know I talked about it in my video dealing directly with this case, but it just really irks me how these cats just gloss over that fact. Don't even mention it. Like like it didn't even happen. Crazy. Whoops, wrong one. Ratings hustlers like the lawyer Ben Crump. Marvin, you nailed it, brother. You nailed it. Race hustlers, ratings hustlers, all that. These people drive me nuts. You're welcome. Anyway, let's move on. If I go at this rate, I'll never get through with this video. But it's only about 5.5 minutes, so we'll be fine. I won't keep y'all here too long, I promise.
Like, we're supposed to watch that and go, okay, one time I used sugar instead of salt, so I can relate. And look, I'm not saying that tragic mistakes will never happen. But what I am saying is that maybe if the police weren't so quick to draw any weapon, then maybe people wouldn't die because of a mix-up from Officer Urkel over here.
I want to know, honest question. I don't know nothing about this dude. I know he's from South Africa. I know he's a comedian or alleges to be a comedian. But I wonder how many times has he ever been in a situation where he had to deal with someone being violent or volatile? I just wonder. And I'm not making an excuse for Miss Potter, former officer Potter. I think it was Potter. Yeah, I'm not making an excuse. I think what happened was inexcusable, but it is understandable. Like, I can understand the concept behind someone making a mistake. Now, I think it is a tremendous mistake. It was a fatal mistake and was something that should not have happened, no doubt about it. But I can't sit back and for the life of me, because basically what he's doing, he is making an assumption that this was racially motivated, because that's pretty much the premise of everything he's saying so far. It just happened to be a black man that was shot. These people just really frustrate me, and I gotta pray for me, y'all, please, because these folks, man, oh man, Lord, I'm telling you, they really get to me. What you got over here, Amy? I used to be on police side 100%. of the time because my dad was a paramedic 30 years ago and had a lot of friends on the force. But when I watched the David Wood video, Why Do Some Police Hate Cops? I saw that. That was very good. I commented on it. And Kristin, you've been around. You've watched me enough. You know that how I try to call it down the middle to the best of my ability. Now, nobody is perfectly unbiased. It's just not a reality. So I'm very critical. So I would never be 100% behind the cops. I have to be honest with her tactics that she failed miserably and it shouldn't have happened. But right now, my main emphasis is on, and I'm with you 100%. My main focus, my main emphasis is on just this race baiting that takes place and how everything is deemed to be race, motivated by hatred, bigotry. They miss me with this nonsense. These people kill me. Right. Thank you very much. So, and this is what really, really, really bugs me in this whole thing. It's just that this woke, progressive, or as my boy Abraham Hamilton, shout out to Abe, loves to say, regressive, because there's nothing progressive about what these folks are trying to push forward and how they're trying to impact America. But they've been so successful because they control so many areas of our country. They control the mainstream media. They control academia. They control Hollywood. They control the sporting leagues. I don't even watch the NBA. I was a massive NBA fan. Anybody that knows me can tell you. Huge NBA fan. I refuse to watch it now. And I tell folks out there, the only way I'll watch it is if my son makes it to the league, because he's pretty good. I'm not, and we hope he makes it to the league. And he ain't woke at all. Thank the Lord. That's the only way I'll watch it. And then I'll only watch his games. But aside from that, I've sworn off the NBA. I just can't do it anymore. I just cannot do it anymore. And not only do they control all these other entities, organizations, they also control big tech. The people that are controlling the language these days, the town hall, the town square rather, the ways we communicate. If you post something talking bad about one of the top BLM activists, talking about all the $1 million homes, the expensive homes that she bought, they block your content. If you try to give any type of counter argument or counterpoint in the area of talking in discussion of anything COVID related, they block it. They control everything. So this type of perspective, his worldview, gets tons of traction. It gets spread all over the place. You cannot avoid it unless you just shut everything off. It's almost like there's no way you can get around it. But we have to find ways to get around it. Otherwise, especially with our young people, especially with our kids, otherwise you'll be inundated with this nonsense. But let's move on.
And by the way, don't you find it amazing that cops think everything is a gun except their own gun? If you have a cell phone in your hand, oh, that's a gun. If you're holding a wallet, oh, that's a gun. Their own gun? No, not a gun, not a gun.
How many times has Trevor Noah ever had to stop someone late at night in a dangerous area, potentially high crime area, and then been forced to make a split-second decision because someone points something at them that looks like it could be a gun? And then you have to make the decision, well, I could risk not shooting and put my own life or the life of someone else in danger, or I can make a quick response and shoot and risk shooting an unarmed individual. I know he hasn't put himself in a situation like that. I'll bet money on that. I'm not even a betting man, but I put money on that. But yet he can sit back in his little studio with his little mini afro and act like he knows what it's like to be put in a challenging situation like that. I challenge him. Man, I wish I had a bigger platform, a bigger audience, but because maybe this would get some more traction. But I challenge this man to do a series of ride-alongs, or at the very least, put himself in some police force-on-force decision-making training over at least a full day, and to see how he would do. I would love to see that. I would pay money for that, because I guarantee you it would open his, if he was honest, I'll say this much, if he was honest, his eyes would be open. Anyway, let me see what some of y'all are saying. Sorry, I got a little carried away, y'all. Forgive me. Okay, what I missed? I'm scrolling back. All right, if he wouldn't have passed the fake $20 bill, he'd still be alive. Thank you, Eric, for standing up and saying what's real. When it's all said and done, I talked about this. I did a live video with Seiko Woods. Y'all can check that out on my page or on his page. For those of y'all that missed it, I did a live video where I discussed that. I don't take any joy in talking about the issues in the Black community, or in any community for that matter, but in particularly the Black community, because that's pretty much where the narrative is. I don't relish in the fact that there are problems, but I acknowledge that there are problems. And we went over, one of the things that we discussed was that every major, I won't say every, 99% of every major incident that has taken place where the police ended up using force, shooting a suspect, has involved criminal activity and someone who resisted to a whatever varying degree. Criminal activity and resisting. Let's go all the way back. And I typically don't even add this because it wasn't police involved, but if you go to the Trayvon Martin case, if you talk about Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Freddie Gray, Jacob Blake, George Floyd, Alton Sterling, who am I missing? Rayshard Brooks. I know I'm missing some more. And there are some tragic cases that take place where the individual was innocently shot by the police, and he shouldn't have been. Of course, it happens because the cop could have ill will. There's no question about it. That's a reality. Or the cop could have just screwed up big time. But I'm telling y'all, if we continue to sit back and never tell people, never challenge them to comply, to obey what the officer tells you, then we really don't care. We just don't. We don't care about them. We have to discuss these issues, as uncomfortable as they may be for some people. It's a reality. If we truly care, if these folks truly care about Black lives, tell them to comply. If these folks truly cared about the issues in the inner city, tell people to stop being idiots, stop committing crimes, and then we'll put ourselves in such a better place. And then things could be so much better. But no, that's not happening. You get people like this making videos just to get people riled up. Let me keep scrolling here, look at some of these comments, because I appreciate y'all stopping by and jumping in. I appreciate it. So I want to get to the video, but I also want to interact with y'all. Maybe members of the jury should have been required to do a ride along. Yeah, I don't really want to get too deep into the Chauvin case, because I know that I have mixed feelings about this. Do I think he intentionally murdered this dude? No. But do I think that his actions were atrocious and he made his bed and therefore he has to lay in it? Definitely. But at the same time, I don't think that there was any way at all this man could have received a fair trial anywhere in this country. I just don't think it was even remotely possible. Who gave them this control? I think a lot of folks just sat back and ignored it. A lot of conservative folks, Christian folks sat back and just ignored the influence and just said, you know what, we're not going to fight these battles. Education system, with the way the woke left started indoctrinating the young people, I think a lot of folks just sat back and just let it happen. Let me see here. He is criticizing poor judgment in a potential life or death situation while he is scared to get a haircut. James, you tripping, bro, but that was good. Knock it off. Cut it out. No doubt, brother. No doubt. That was good. He stole that from, from a meme. High ping, the way things are going, do you think we'll get to a point that nobody will want to be a cop? Yeah, I think it's very possible. I think it's very possible. I think right now, cops are so highly scrutinized unfairly. I think it's good for cops to be under a microscope. I think it's so good. I have been such an advocate. Even while I was a cop, I was such an advocate for cops being challenged by the public, challenged by other officers. I was really passionate about that, and I still am. But things have gotten so far to the extreme, it's like they expect cops to be perfect. And you could never make a mistake. And my honest opinion, what they're going to do is they're going to push this narrative to such a degree to where there are no longer any street cops. And then they put in some type of state level, federal level police agency. And then they're going to just stop reporting on the bad things that happen. That's what they're going to do. And people are going to think that everything's so much better, but you're just not going to hear about it. Because once again, they control all the areas of communication and we'll be left in the dark. Unless we're those of us who are wise enough to say, hey, I'm going to stop listening to the mainstream media and I'm going to see if I'm going to consistently try to more consistently follow independent journalists. That's the only way we'll know what's really going on. Excellent question, brother. These issues span across all races. We only see what the media shows us. Frank, you nailed it, bro. You totally nailed it. Frank, you and I know, man, just being out on the streets, the number of contacts we have where we draw guns on white dudes or Hispanic dudes. People, like I said, they're spinning and they're telling us, they're informing us what they want us to hear, what they want us to know. And most people either don't have the time or aren't willing to do the research and educate themselves. Celebrities need to stay in their lane of real world issues. I totally agree, bro. Totally agree. This is not a legal standard, but when I have the most to lose, I'm holding myself most responsible. That's just survival. Good point, bro. Good point. Kristin, do you ever watch High Impact Flicks channel? High Impact Flicks channel? No, I don't. His anti-cop rhetoric gets on my last nerve sometimes, but he makes good points from time to time. Yeah, I've never even heard of it. I don't even know who that is. Obama was going to do that in 2010-ish form some federal police force. I never heard about that. Wow. I'm not surprised though. But I honestly believe that's the path we're heading down. I honestly believe that. Because they don't want I think it's the fact that partly they understand that there's a lot of conservative people in law enforcement. Not all, clearly, but you have a tendency to be a bit more conservative. Now, I know some folks that are liberal, some of my buddies, who, especially dudes that have been out on the streets, who lean left politically, they still vote for the Democratic Party. But when it comes to this whole policing issue, they're just like, man, I can't ride with these fools right here. Because they know that there's a lot of manipulation going on. Some of them, I just wish they understood a little more. I just wish they understood a little more. And I'm sure some of y'all out there listening to me, and you know who I'm talking about. I just wish they understood a little more a bit more how strongly the indoctrination is or how deep it runs. But that's another conversation for another day. And we've only made it 1 minute and 38 seconds into the video. So at this pace, we'll be here an hour, but we're not going to be here an hour. I promise y'all.
And even if it was just a mistake, that's not a mistake that you just forgive and walk away. Especially since you know the people jumping to her defense for using a gun instead of a taser, those are the same people who want their waiter fired for bringing them a regular Coke instead of diets.
Ha ha ha. And I don't think anyone's just trying to forgive and walk away. I haven't heard anyone say that. Have y'all? I mean, seriously. I pay attention to this stuff. I haven't heard anyone say that.
Now, regardless of the specifics of how it happens, incidents involving police getting out of control with black suspects are still far too common. And you know that because this shooting in Minnesota isn't the only example of police brutality people are talking about today.
Developing this morning in the state of Virginia, the governor there is calling for an independent investigation after the release of a disturbing police body cam video. It shows officers drawing their guns on an Army lieutenant in uniform and pepper spraying him during a traffic stop that took place last December. That Army lieutenant says the two officers violated his constitutional rights, and now one of those officers has been fired.
Put your hands out the window!
A Windsor police officer says in his report he spotted a vehicle with dark-tinted windows and no license plate displayed that was eluding police. Though a lawsuit says a paper license plate was visible in the rear window of the new car. Nazario admits in his complaint that he didn't immediately pull over, driving nearly 2 minutes with his hazard lights on so he could stop at a well-lit gas station.
And that matters. And I know there are some officers out there who might be listening to this and thinking that him driving for an additional mile and a half and not complying isn't that much of a big deal. But I think it depends on what agency. Here in Vegas, big town, where there is a lot of cars being stolen and issues like that, that matters. There's no point where I was ever under. Let me say this. I remember me lighting someone up. They were parked halfway on the sidewalk. It was downtown Las Vegas, right in front of Fremont, like right at Las Vegas Boulevard and Fremont. And if anyone who's familiar, been to Vegas, Fremont, when you start heading down towards the Fremont area, you're not in the greatest part of town, not by any stretch of the case, any stretch of the matter, not in any way. And he was parked on the road and partly on the sidewalk in a rental car. So I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And then I hit my lights and he keeps on driving. But he stopped maybe about 20 seconds, 30 seconds down the road. I told control that the driver's not stopping. And they said, are you in pursuit? And I said, no, I'm just following him until he pulls over. He pulled over 30 seconds maybe. I got out of my car. Dude was from England, didn't really know what was going on. He was lost. So it was no big deal. But there's so many nuances in this case. What area were they in? Was it a high crime area? Was it an area known to have issues? We're talking, it was late at night. You stop a guy, you attempt to stop a vehicle, they continue driving, dark tinted windows, they continue driving for 2 minutes straight. That's a problem. I ain't never seen anywhere. Now, I don't know. I've been away from the force since 2014. So maybe things have changed as far as I know. But the idea of someone continuing to drive and being non-compliant is just foreign to me. And I don't think it's something that can be just brushed aside. He needed to pull over, and he could have had his hands on the steering wheel and given the officer the information he had, and he could have been on his way. I'm not sympathetic. And if you want me to go into further detail of my thoughts, check out the video that I have at Cobra Conversations where I talk about this whole incident. It's pretty extensive. I go into a lot of detail, but when it's all said and done, I think that lieutenant asked for it. Now, the heavyset officer, was he the epitome of professionalism? No. But at the same time, it can be very frustrating when you're attempting to get someone to comply and they just continue to run on and on at the mouth. Yeah, he could have given the guy more information. No question about it. Could have shared more info with him. He could have told him why he was stopping them. But would that have changed things? We truly don't know. We truly don't know. Let me check out some comments here real quick. What up, JD? Hey, let's do it, brother. Hey, my number hasn't changed. I think you still got it. Hit me up. Absolutely, Frank. Total straw man argument on his part. The dude just doesn't understand. He rails against the police, but he has no clue at all. None. It drives me nuts. Hey, Sherry, what's going on? That was a total setup, and he is a disgrace to the United States Army. He should be court-martialed and dishonorably discharged. Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. Because dude was all calm and cool, got his little camera set up, and then talked about how afraid he was. If they wanted to shoot him, they would have. If they wanted to shoot him, they would have. This dude is in the military. He's a leader in the military. He knows about protocol. He filmed immediately, race baiting. Yeah, I agree. It's nuts. It's totally nuts where we are right now as a culture. Between that uniform being sloppy and all right, Ping, you killing me, man. Or I don't know who you are. I don't want to say man. I don't want to disrespect you like that. Between the uniform being sloppy and that gut, I would have guessed he was a stolen valor. Well, he was somewhat of a jerk. You got that part right. This whole situation was just nuts. Do you think there will be an exodus from police forces across the country? It's happening already. There are a lot of agencies over the last few years where I've read and watched news reports where they say that their recruiting has dropped by 60%. And it is very, very difficult to get people to want to become police officers. And that's really sad because typically the people that these folks, a lot of these BLM and these woke activists profess to be supportive of, will be the main ones who are suffering. In these urban communities, when cops are quitting and moving on or moving to other agencies that are a little more open to policing people that are less woke, a lot of these urban communities are going to be the ones that suffer. And then what's going to happen, the crazy part about it is down the road in the next 10 years, 20 years, people will look back on this and say, all these police officers were leaving because they'll probably try to say because they were racist, because they don't care about the Black community. And someone help me out. Someone name an organization that is more proactive towards saving black folks, Black people, than law enforcement. I mean, honestly. And I know that there's a history there in law enforcement that, especially during the civil rights movement, that made things difficult and makes things still difficult now. But we've come a long way. And it's unfortunate that you have so many people out there continuing to push this racist narrative. It's truly unfortunate. What's up, LJ? I'm an Army lieutenant. He was wrong. The Army does not teach us to act like that. Hey, I was in the Army too, brother. And there's no way in the world that I would have done anything like that. I got stopped by the police. I'm pulling over. I'm pulling over. Ain't no question about it. And I'm worried that it's going to get back to my first sergeant and company commander.
What's going on?
Nazario, who is Black and Latino and was wearing his military uniform, asks repeatedly why he's being detained.
And not that his military uniform mattered at all, because I knew some straight up fools when I was in the Army. Crackheads, dudes that were thieves, alcoholics. That is completely irrelevant. They wouldn't have federal prison for the break if people that were in the military were angels. So just stop that.
I'm serving this country and this is how I'm treated.
What's going on? You're fixing to ride the lightning, son.
And then this exchange.
I'm honestly afraid to get out. Can I?
Yeah, you should be. Get out. Back up.
Whoa,
Officer Joe Gutierrez then pepper sprays Nazario in the face.
Hold on.
All he had to do was get out.
This is fucked up. Lieutenant Nazario had his hands hanging out of the window, but he still got threatened. He still got pepper sprayed, and he still got thrown on the ground. And Trevor, you forgot to add, he pulled away when they grabbed him. When they attempted to open the door, he pulled the door closed, wouldn't let them open it. He was non-compliant. Don't forget that part. It's interesting how you forget that, but not surprising. Whole time, mind you, the whole time, These cops are saying the craziest shit to him. You should be scared. Oh, you're fixing to ride the lightning. How the is that professional?
And no one said it was professional. No one said it was professional. But he could have easily eliminated all that foolish talk. Easily. But that cop didn't deserve to get fired. Give him a couple of days off. Write him up. That's what that was worthy of. But terminated? Not at all. Not at all.
Ride the lightning? You're not hyping a ride at Six Flags, man. You're dealing with someone's life. And how crazy is it that this driver, think about it, he knew to get to a gas station so that he would have decent lighting for the encounter. Imagine, just think about that for a moment. Police brutality has forced everyday Black Americans to become lighting experts.
And once again, not considering the fact that car stops are some of the most dangerous calls that a police officer can be on. That every year, in 2019, there were over 4,000 officers that were assaulted on car stops to varying degrees. Over 4,000 assaulted or attacked in some way during car stops. That's via the FBI law enforcement officer killed or assaulted report that they do every year. So that, of course, Noah doesn't think about that because he never has to experience that. He never has to experience the perspective of a law enforcement officer. Every year, somewhere in the neighborhood of 55 plus, nearly 60,000 officers are assaulted every single year. And these are the ones that are reported. These are the ones that report. These are the ones that are reported. And typically they only get about 65% of all agencies in the country that are reporting. So if you extrapolate that number out, that number is far more than that. Far more than that. You're looking at 90, 85, 90, almost 100,000 officers that are injured on duty, that are attacked on duty. And some killed, unfortunately. But again, this dude doesn't even think about that.
Oh yeah, the lighting here is great. You'll be able to see the cops whip my ass. This is much better.
Corny.
And don't forget, please don't forget, this is how cops treated one of the troops, the troops, while he was wearing his uniform. Not a hoodie, not baggy pants. So what's the excuse this time, I mean, if a
non-compliance. That's the issue. I don't care whether you're wearing a tuxedo, body armor, a suit of armor from King Arthur's day. I don't care what you're wearing. If you ain't doing what you're supposed to do, you should get treated the same way.
A Black man in military uniform can't get humane treatment from the police, then what chance does every other Black person in America have? I mean, at this point, Black people should just start singing the Star-Spangled Banner when they get pulled over. Then maybe, just maybe, the cops will be like, well, I don't want to pepper spray the anthem. What do I do? But if you're surprised that a member of the military is having his rights abused, then you need to understand the police don't give a shit. They don't care if you're a member of the military. They don't care if you're a beloved member of the community. They don't care if you're recording them. Shit, they don't even care if they're recording themselves. And the reason they don't care is because they know they're going to get away with it. And until that changes, they're just going to keep not caring.
Whew. Now y'all see why I got so worked up, don't you? This dude right here. What do you even say to that? Honestly, because obviously the facts don't matter to these people. The facts, they're completely irrelevant. As long, whatever goes on, as long as it coincides and goes along with their perspective, what can you say to them? They'll just shoot down whatever you have to say because to them it'll be irrelevant. Nobody should get special treatment, uniform or not. I totally agree. You act a fool, you disobey, you're not compliant, then you open the door to whatever happens to you. I'm not saying that you should get shot up or anything like that, but officers will only naturally respond in the appropriate manner to keep themselves safe. Man, I'm telling y'all, man, I wish Trevor Noah could get this, could hear this video, and I would love to talk to this dude. It'd probably be a waste of my time, but I would really love to talk to this guy. He could have bought that uniform from a surplus store, so it made no difference. Very true, Sherry. Very true. Baby, that's why I made this video. I was sitting back minding my own business when that jumped into my stream or on my YouTube recommendations, and like an idiot, I decided to click on it. But it made for a good conversation. The officer should have a right, that would save everything, man. Or you know what? Have a genie as his ride along. So the genie could tell him exactly what's going on. You know, I saw an article from 2019 from the Washington Post. They're talking about having robots replacing officers. No lie, robots. I mean, honestly, the way they expect officers to act, that's what you need. But then again, they would try to figure out who the programmers were. Because if the programmers were white, they would be like white supremacists or something like that. So then the robots would be white supremacists. This dude is a textbook example of a pseudo-intellectual. You're right about that. But nowadays, not nowadays, because I remember reading or hearing Malcolm X talking about it back in the 60s, where he was talking about how in the black community, it's like the only community, and I don't know if I would say only, but he was saying how they're the only community that that put up athletes and celebrities, singers, actors as their intellectuals to be speaking out on some of the social issues. And he laughed. He mocked it. And that's pretty much how I feel. When I hear LeBron James trying to act all intelligent, all knowledgeable about police-related issues, I'm like, dude, sit down somewhere. I used to be a fan. I used to be a big fan. But the path he's went down with all this nonsense and stirring the pot, I can't deal with these cats. You never know, Lon. You never know, brother. What is a good website source for all actual police stats? It seems like Trevor is just making up numbers. Now, a good question, Caleb. I would recommend, and now no site is 100% informed because you have to deal with data, and sometimes that data is limited. But I loved going to the FBI Uniform Crime Report, FBI LEOKA, LEOKA, and you could type it in for almost every year. But they usually don't put the report out until like October. So right now, we don't have the report for 2020. Especially, I'm definitely looking forward to the FBI Uniform Crime Report for 2020. In light of all the riots and protests that went on, I can only imagine what those numbers are looking like. Good point right here, Mark. I was about to get to that. The Washington Post, because they are liberal, and I love using their statistics when I make my arguments. Love using their numbers, because at the very least, even though they still try to frame everything to be racially motivated, even they had to concede that 85 to 90% of all police shootings that take place, regardless of ethnicity, involve suspects in possession of weapons. Even they had to concede that. And I pay, I pay the yearly fee just because of what I do. I hate giving them my money, but just because of what I do, I love having that information readily available. But I'm telling you, I use the Washington Post, FBI, LEOKA, FBI Uniform Crime Report. Those are my mainstays primarily. And then various books I read, The War on Cops by Heather McDonald, different sources like that, different places like that. So absolutely, their shooting database is really informative. Matter of fact, I was going through 2019 and 2020 shootings at random, just to do about 100 shootings. And I was going to look and see how many of those where the suspect resisted or fled. I did 25 so far. I still have I still have more to do. Actually, we did 50. And those numbers, it was like, I think there might have been two or three total that weren't resisting or fleeing, maybe out of 50. So and if you link, they have links to the actual articles, the local news stations that reported on these, and you typically get better information when local news channels broadcast it, but not always. I'm still leery. Remember, according to the Brooklyn Center mayor, cops shouldn't be armed during traffic stops. Please make me understand his logic. Brother, I will be addressing that shortly. I'm putting together video with evidence, not just me talking, but with evidence to show just how dumb that is, just how ignorant that is. And there's another guy, YouTuber out there, who's got a pretty big audience, the Amazing Lucas. He used to be more conservative, but now he's really getting caught up in this whole race baiting nonsense. I had to unsubscribe from that guy. But he is actually, Seiko Woods actually posted him saying that he uses the argument that in 2019, only one police officer died from a car stop. So therefore, in his mind, cops shouldn't have guns during car stops, just based on deaths. Not mentioning how often police officers get attacked or injured during car stops, or how being in possession of a weapon might be a deterrent towards that. He just uses that one bit of data to make his claim. You can't make this stuff up, folks. You can't make this stuff up. And these folks have platforms with tens of thousands of followers and subscribers. And people listen to them and are like, that actually makes sense. No, it doesn't. It's dumb. And they need to be called out. So that's what I do. That's what I try to do. I try to be a voice of reason to the best of my ability. Doesn't always work, but hey. Hey, Don. We need more folks like you that are willing to share this information. It's so important. Thank you, Eric. You're awesome. Thank you, Don. You're too sweet. Would you be able to put some of these stats on your website too? Man, you know what? I was planning on doing that, but man, it kind of slipped my mind. But that's one thing I want my website to have is some ongoing data so people can go there and that could be a resource. And even if you don't necessarily have to go to the Washington Post, not that I'll take all of their data, but I'll take some of their stats and I'll post it up. So remind me of that, brother, because I definitely plan on getting that done. I want Code Red Conversations to be a hub. Man, I'm telling you, my vision about Code Red Conversation is really big. I want to travel across the country, talk to people. I want to have scenario-based training so people can come to me or I can bring it to them where they can have situations for schools. I got a ton of ideas, and Lord willing, it'll get accomplished. Because I know when people are actually in these situations, even though it's not real, you can't help but get your heart rate get to racing a bit. And I just want to bring the reality of what a cop has to deal with on a daily basis to the average everyday citizen. So keep me in prayer for that, y'all. And I appreciate y'all joining me. I said I was going to keep it under an hour, but I came pretty dang close. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you jump over to Code Red Conversations on YouTube and on Instagram. Give me a subscribe, give me a follow, comment on some of my content. The more you guys interact with my content, the more YouTube, because you got to deal with the algorithm, the more likely YouTube is to push my content out to other people. So whatever you guys can do to help me get this information out, I would so appreciate it. I love y'all. Thank y'all for supporting me. Make sure you jump on over, because doing all this stuff ain't free. So if you can support me by jumping over to Code Red Conversations website and jumping in the shop and buying some of my new gear. I got some cool t-shirts, some cool hats, beanies. Jump on over there, and I would definitely. So you can go to my Facebook page, my Code Red Conversations Facebook page, or Eric Muldrow on my Facebook page, and I have a link posted up there. And if you guys can do that, it would just help me out tremendously, honestly, because I do this just out of a true passion, but it can be pretty expensive on a month-to-month basis. So whatever y'all can do to support me and support these ideas going out to the public on a greater scale, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Love y'all. Thank you for everything. And as always, in the meantime, stay safe. God bless. And make sure you join the conversation. I'm out.